Okay, just get a pen and pencil here.
Why we're going public now.
All right, we are live on YouTube.
All right, I see we're at 2:31. Are we well accounted for, Katie?
Yeah, we're at 2:30. Do we have a quorum though?
We do have a quorum. I have not heard from Terry or Les though.
Yeah, just
Good, we have a quorum. Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order, please.
All right. Foster? Oh, did we lose Lois? Do
We lost her.
No. Oh, I'm delayed.
you want me to keep going?
Please.
Freeling? She's not in the conference room, is she?
No.
Okay. Hoyt,
Here.
Krieger,
Here,
Lammert,
here.
Lester,
Here.
Meister is absent, Schooneman,
Here.
Smith is absent, Wagner,
Here.
and Lester, White. Nope. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 7 present, 4 absent.
All right, we do have a quorum then. Thank you, Jennifer. And we're at approval of the minutes. Everybody's seen the minutes from our June 9th meeting. Were there any additions, corrections, comments?
None. Move acceptance. Eric Lichter.
Will second that.
Who was the second?
Greg.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? If not, we'll have a roll call vote, please.
Foster. Oh, it's not here yet. Let's see. Hoyt,
Yes.
Krieger,
yes.
Lammert,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Schooneman,
Yes.
Wagner.
I.
All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 6 yays, 5 absent.
And Lois is back in the,
Oh, okay. Okay.
Lois, we just voted on, or we're voting on approval of the minutes. Are you there with us? Looks like we're good to go. We have 2 items of communication. Katie, let me turn those over to you, please.
Okay, well, the first is we have a new county administrator, Brian Dissett. He's with us right now for a brief moment to introduce, I just want to introduce you to Brian. And he's been on the job for 14 days. So he's certainly been thrown in a bunch of different stuff, and so we don't want to keep him too much. I think he has some other meetings, but I did want you to meet him. So.
Brian, did you, first of all, welcome. Well, we're glad to have you on board. I guess you still got your rookie stripes for another couple of weeks anyway. Did you want to make any brief comments or introduction of yourself?
Sure. So I'm really happy to be here. Thank you all for serving on this board. It's much appreciated. I've spent the last 15 years working just up the road in South Haven, and spent way too much time in planning commission meetings that were always at night. So I compliment all of you for having the good sense to do this during the day.
Well, we certainly look forward to getting more acquainted with you as time goes on and conditions allow.
Thank you all. I hope you have a very good meeting.
Thank you for stopping by. You're welcome to stay for as long or as little as your time allows.
Sounds good. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you, Brian. Also, just to let you know that we sent the notification of our updated master plan, that we are in the intent of updating our master plan, and their cooperation and participation is welcomed and appreciated. So that letter was sent out over the last month. I don't know what date, but it was sent out to municipalities. And I actually did get a call from St. Joe County Planning Commission that was just excited to be part of the coordination and cooperation.
Good.
Great. Who all are the interested entities? Are those surrounding counties and our own municipalities, Katie, or what is that list?
Yeah, under the statute, it's all the municipalities, railroads, and utilities, as well as the adjacent counties. So we also went into Indiana for LaPorte, St. Joe County, in Michigan. Well, not St. Joe County, just Cass and Van Buren.
Great. Do we have any public with us for any public comment today?
I am looking, just 1 second. It appears as though I'm the only one watching, so I think you're good. There are no public comments.
All right, thanks for that. Do we have any old business to come before the commission this afternoon?
No.
All right, new business. Katie, the floor is once again yours.
Okay. So I sent you guys all the PowerPoint presentation. You also did receive the packets that were sent to us from Three Oaks Township and Lake Township. So I just, I'm always giving you a PowerPoint, so I just did a quick one. And so for Three Oaks Township, both of these are text amendments. The first one we'll look at is Three Oaks Township, and the applicant is Deer Creek Hunt Club and DHCH Land LLC. They own property in Three Oaks, which is a recreational facility. They currently have a restaurant on the facility for their members, and they are requesting a special land use in the ag residential district in conjunction with the caveat that it's allowing restaurants and taverns in conjunction with an existing recreational facility. And so Deer Creek Hunt Club currently has that restaurant. They want to open it to the public so that it can be maybe it can recruit some new membership to the facility, as well as just allow non-members to come in and participate in having a meal restaurant. They did consult with an attorney, so what's his name? I'm trying to blank on the attorney, but Frank DeFrancisco actually did a lot of the legwork on behalf of the township with providing finding of facts, associating where in their master plan makes sense, and why this change, adding the special land use for restaurants and taverns in the ag residential district. Ag and rural residential is their actual district title. Their planning commission reviewed the information and they recommended approval. And so what the amendment is to add section 3.07, adding restaurants and taverns with the caveat, in conjunction with existing recreational facilities as a special land use. Also including restaurants when done in conjunction with an existing recreational facility in their section 4.03. And then in the actual special land use requirements, identifying those criteria and specifications for restaurants in conjunction with an existing recreational facility. So one thing that the Planning Commission and the applicant was amenable to hours of operations and parking, and the Planning Commission felt not to include hours of operation in the actual text amendment, that would be handled in the actual special land use application and the contract. So that was the discussion. I don't know if there's any other questions.
Katie,
Yeah, please.
Katie, can you hear me yet?
I can, yes.
Can I speak now or is
Lois, may I suggest?
Okay,
you turn off-
I lose you. It seems like every time. Yes.
Lois, if you turn off your video, your audio will probably be okay. You can see us, but we won't be able to see you.
I have you on my daughter's camera right now, and on her phone, and I can hear you and see you. Are we still connected, Vicki?
Yes, but I would suggest for a better connection, only have your audio on.
So may I speak? May I speak to the subject right now? Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, as regards the Three Oaks Township documents that we received, I found it unclear. Their first page, they have recreational facility, and on the second page, they make it explicit to be hunt club recreational facility. Are they able to make change to their ordinance, and in effect it would be for the entire county? Is this the proper protocol for that? Are we changing something for the entire county by just Three Oaks Township carrying it on?
So this is for their township ordinance in their ag rural residential district. The actual recreational facility is called it's called the gun club or hunt club.
Hunt club, yes.
But it's considered a recreational facility under their application or allowance in the ag rural residential district. So this is just specific to Three Oaks Township. This is not a county effective requirement or text amendment.
I would like to see that made very clear in the minutes, if you would kindly. I've studied on this quite a bit, and when you look at the different terminology, it needed to be more clear, and I think the way you just said it was right on the money. So thank you for the explanation. I appreciate it. That's all I have to say until we vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can you hear me okay? This is Vicki.
Yes, Vicki.
The hunt club was put in as mitigation ponds for what they filled in illegally at the landfill. So they had to have this mitigation, and then they decided to turn it into a hunt club. It's right on US 12. There's a side access road to Basswood Road. Traffic is horrible with the casino. You can sit on Basswood Road for 5 or 10 minutes and can't pull out. And what could go wrong? Guns and booze.
But they already have a license now to sell booze to their member, don't they not?
I don't know. I know they have a restaurant.
They
All
don't
they
have a
wanna
liquor
do-
license. They don't have a liquor license, they only have the restaurant
Okay.
at this time. Vicky, I think you're trying to talk, I can't see. We can't
No,
hear
I
you.
was agreeing that they do not have a liquor license to my knowledge, and that traffic is very heavy. I would be concerned about access because the sign for the place is right on US 12. And pulling in and out is going to be difficult. And then you're mixing guns and booze. Okay.
Katie, was there any public comment at the planning commission meeting in Three Oaks?
There was
No, there wasn't.
not.
I
No.
didn't think. Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
it seems as though we're talking about two subjects. on the same application.
Lois, you're breaking up.
Maybe this is too premature for the count, a restaurant, and now we're talking about traffic. Pardon me?
No, we can
Pardon
hear
me,
you now.
Mr. Chairman?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
So it seems that we're talking about two different subjects now on this one application. That being a restaurant and the liquor and the traffic. Perhaps we better have more information from the township and their planning commission in the township and probably ought to pursue this a bit further before they send it to the county. Would that be a viable suggestion, sir?
I guess I'd have to have you clarify that more because
Let's see, I've lost.
it's pretty clear what they're
them
asking.
again.
They want to add a restaurant to their ag and rural residential district, period.
Well, right, if I could just clarify that they currently have and are running a restaurant. They just would like to make it available to the public.
Public restaurant, yes.
So they're currently doing what they're doing under their recreational facility as it is, as a membership club, private club that you are a member of. And they would like to open the opportunity of making it public.
Did they make any mention of traffic studies?
No, they didn't, but that could be something that could be considered or addressed in the special land use permitting process, because it does they do specify ingress and egress.
I would suggest, look, you're going to do it anyway. I would suggest that we recommend that they look at traffic. You have to understand that people only look at what they want to look at without foresight. And I think that, I don't think this is a very good study. I think they looked at language. So my recommendation would be that they add a section to, that we recommend that they look at the traffic on US 12.
Okay.
In section 15.33, restaurants in conjunction with recreational facilities, item number 1 has site ingress and egress shall be directly from a paved public road. So that is a requirement within there, but as to your point of looking at the traffic impacts, they felt that it would not, in their comments and in their analysis, they did not feel that it would have any significant impact, but it is something that could be, just a comment that's put in our review and comments to them to just consider that maybe that could have some potential impacts to the public roads that it's off of.
What are you doing it just with black?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so what are the wishes of the commission? We have a proposal that we comment back that they, before granting the individual approval of this, that they look at traffic volumes. Would somebody like to make this in the form of motion of approval subject to that comment or some other motion?
Sure, I'll do that.
Could
Eric
you-
Lester, I'll second that.
Yeah, motion to concur with the recommendation that they actually look at the traffic on US 12.
Mr. Chairman, I support that. This is Lois.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, Jennifer, if we could go to a vote, please.
Foster,
Did you say Lester or Foster?
Lois Foster,
Yes.
Berrien is absent. Hoyt,
Yes.
Yes.
Krieger, Lammert,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Meister is absent. Schooneman,
Yes.
Smith is absent. Wagner,
Yes,
White is absent. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so 7 yays.
All right. Great, thank you. Next up is Lake Charter Township's text.
Hey, if I can just say 1 second, Commissioner Fearling is trying to get on. I'm trying to find her. She said she didn't get the invite, so she is trying, just so you know.
All right, thanks, Annette.
Did you not get our email?
Just, I'm guessing she's saying, yeah, and I can't, I tried to find it and I couldn't find it.
I couldn't find it either. You had to send it to me again.
Here, I'll just forward. Bear with me.
Hang on just a second, sorry.
On my phone, it was nested inside Katie's email to us. Inside the copy of the email from Annette.
Yep, T. Fearling at Berrien County,
F-R-E-E-L-I-N-G.
F-R-E.
Oh, there's a H somewhere.
Yep.
F-R-E-E-H-L-I-N-G.
Mm-hmm. Pretty sure.
Yes, it's her area.
Is it?
No,
Oh, it's not, okay.
I think it's that. She's purple, right?
Yeah. She's like 88. Did you send it to her, King?
I,
Katie, do you need me to forward it to her?
yeah, just because I'm doing it on my phone, I don't know if it's working.
Yep, I'll do it right now.
I just sent it to her too.
I'm sorry, I sent you guys like, from the original agenda, I sent 3 emails. One was corrected because I spelled Brian DeSette's name incorrectly. So I updated it and corrected and sent the agenda again. So I did confuse. I confused your inbox a little, sorry about that. Is she responding to me?
She sent me in here, I'll just let her know that it's been sent. We don't have the waiting room going today, so she should be able to just pop right in there as soon as she gets connected, so.
Okay, Katie, are we ready to move forward with Lake Charter Township? Well, while we wait for Terry.
Yeah.
Isn't that her, that one's hers, isn't
Is Lake Charter her district? I think it is. She blue? Yeah, it's her district.
it? Yeah.
I think we can go. She should.
Go ahead.
Already have her district then. Okay, yeah, so, the next is Lake Township, and, they are also wanting to do a text amendment with the focus of doing like temporary housing for medical and elderly hardship conditions. So they're wanting to add in their R1 single family, R2 multifamily, and residential ag districts, so pretty much all their residential districts. Hi, Terry.
Hi.
They would like to add the medical and elderly hardship conditions. So this is where a family maybe needs to care for long-term care, and they don't want to necessarily be in the same home, or maybe the home is not big enough to provide or accessible for the needs. So they'll put up something for temporary purposes, and this is allowed as a special land use permit under this provision that they presented. There was public comment. There was public that participated in this, their public hearing, which was in the beginning of March, so just before the shelter in place. And it was in March. And so some of the public comments were specific to allowing for the structure to stay on and then maybe using it as a rental or something. And that was what they didn't want to see. And alternatively, they also didn't want to see a bunch of trailers just popping up everywhere. So there was some concerns, but what brought this about, having talked with the zoning administrator, was in their previous ordinance, they did a complete revision of their ordinance in 2011. And prior to that, I think it was like in the 90s that they had their previous adopted ordinance. And in that previous ordinance, they had this hardship provision in their residential district. When they updated in the 2011 ordinance, they did not include that provision. And so residents had some concerns and brought this to their attention and requested it. So that is why they brought it. They also added some definitions. Medical hardship is described as an incapacitating injury or illness diagnosed by a licensed medical physician, which requires an ongoing care by caregivers. The definition includes the elderly. And they didn't specify an age to what was considered elderly in that regard. And then they described a caregiver as a family or paid helper who regularly looks after a sick or elderly or disabled person. So that pretty much is what they looked at. They also, in the draft that you had, I emailed to you, it did include in item 1 a home that meets all requirements for single-family dwelling under the Michigan Residential Building Code, and they requested, and they're striking out the word Michigan because there's talk that at some point Michigan Building Code is going to be replaced with the International Building Code. So keeping it as just residential building code would then eliminate them having to come back to do a type of, a cleanup, housekeeping. So that was one of the other draft changes that are before us that that would go to their board for approval. And other than that, there was some questions as to what age is, what age are they determining eligibility, and there was no answer to that point, or to that question of what's the age of an elderly person. But it really is, because it requires, under their criteria, it requires something from a medical professional. So they need to provide, in order to apply for the permit, they need to have a doctor's diagnosis or something stating that they need long-term care. And then they did also want to kind of be effective with when the short-term facility or the dwelling is no longer needed, that there is a end date to getting that temporary shelter removed, so that it's not years, an empty building where it's sitting on the property.
Are there any questions or comments from the commission?
Mr. Chairman, in their old ordinance, Katie, in the old planning code, did they have a limit on to how quick the house or the structure had to be torn down or removed from the property? Or is that something?
I didn't look, so I cannot answer it. My hunch, though, I think they're using some of the language that they initially had 6 months, and they felt that, no more than a year should be the temporary dwelling structure should be removed within a year.
But they did not spell that out in the text amendment, correct?
It did spell it out that there was a time limit on it after that particular person who had the permit to use it was no longer using it.
Did it say?
Yeah, item 7 says requires removal of the temporary dwelling within 1 year when a change of condition under which the special land use permit was granted, such as relocation or death of the resident for whom the permit was issued, and a change of ownership of the property. So those were the describing factors that that they would require then that removal. But they did not actually, it doesn't specify the time frame, and that was what was discussed at the public hearing, the comments. Give me a second.
Katie, this is Greg.
Yeah.
Do you know why?
I can't see. My glasses are foggy.
Go ahead. Bird apart.
Okay.
Katie, we have a question from
Mr.
Greg.
Chairman. Katie, do you know why they excluded recreational vehicles from this amendment?
Not to allow a trailer, or like a RV.
Yeah, like a large driven in and set up right next to the house. It would seem that would be a much easier alternative than bringing a trailer in or even building something. Having been in the home health and hospice industry for many years, a lot of times a person will be thrown into a situation where a family member gets sick, comes down with a terminal illness, and they have to respond pretty quickly with accommodations. And an RV would be an ideal type of a thing to do that quickly versus having to bring in a mobile home or a trailer and have all the setup expense and just the time involved in that. So I'd like to understand why they would not allow a large recreational vehicle to serve that purpose.
I think it goes back to that very first item in that it has to meet the requirements of a single family dwelling under the code. I think that's the reason, and they also are requiring that they be connected to water and sewer.
Right.
So those are the reasons why they're probably excluding it. I mean, a case in point right now, if somebody is an essential worker and has been exposed to COVID and they don't want to be of risk to their family, especially if someone within their family resides in their family that has that is a high risk, they may, we've seen it, if you haven't driven around, that might be somebody have a camper outside.
Right.
Where they're, the essential worker might be in the camper, still at home, but not exposing themselves to the family. So I think that the RV is allowed within somebody's residence, but I don't think it would be under this where you're actually getting a special use permit. Those are maybe even more short term.
That's a two-edged sword. As an old township supervisor who used to require the same thing, when you get a situation like that and the mobile home, what do I want to say, the single family dwelling qualification no longer is in use, then it has to be removed. Getting it removed is a real chore. Getting a nice 40-foot RV removed is a lot easier. It would be a lot easier than getting a 70-foot or 60-foot trailer removed. I've been through that. I mean, it's nice that they require a mobile home, and that's certainly ideal. But sometimes, unfortunately, there's an end to its use, and when that end comes, then the local official has to go to the homeowner and say, okay, now it's an empty building and we want it removed. And getting it removed sometimes requires court action. It's not an easy process. Something on wheels with a hitch on the front can be removed an awful lot easier. And back 20 years ago and 30 years ago when I was supervisor, you couldn't get a 40-foot RV that was suitable to live in with expandable sides and all that, that had suitable square footage to provide for a single individual who had some care needs. So it's a good idea that you bring up, that it would be nice if they would consider that with limitations. Don't put a 20-foot or 10-foot RV in there, put something of significance in there. But that I think we should start rethinking those requirements now that times have changed and recreational vehicles, homes on wheels, that they are now today, are a lot more compatible to long-term living, or can be anyway, and not a headache to get rid of when their use is over with. Because I went through that in several occasions when I was township supervisor. Those uses eventually come to an end, and it's expensive to move them. You have, and people don't like to do that, but you have to force them to do it, and it takes a while to do that. It costs money for the township to do it. It costs, it's a real pain. So,
All right. Do I hear then a proposal, Rod, that you could turn into a motion for us?
no, it's something that it's the kind of thing we ought to just whisper in their ear. Something, I don't think it's something we as a commission maybe ought to bring up to them, but we got to start thinking different nowadays about these kind of things, because downstream, these installations do become a problem.
All right, would someone like to make a motion of some sort on this issue?
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to concur with their planning commission, and with the suggestion of what Rod and Greg said, that they might consider in future for these luxury mobile homes RVs that are easier to remove.
Thank you. I'll second that. Thanks, Vicki. You're always good at putting things in your. I appreciate it.
Any discussion of the motion as stated? If not, Jennifer, can we go for a vote, please?
Lois Foster,
Yes.
Terry Freeling,
Yes.
Hoyt,
Yes.
Krieger,
Yes.
Lammert,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Meister is absent, Schooneman,
Yes.
Smith is absent, Wagner
Aye.
is absent. You have 8 yeas, 3 absent.
All right, motion carries. Thank you, Jennifer.
Jennifer, could you please repeat the motion to me, just so I understand?
Let's see, 2. Let me get on the right page. That would be to concur with Lake Charter Township Planning Commission to recommend approval with the suggested consideration of luxury RVs in the future instead.
For easier removal.
For easier removal.
For easier removal.
Yep, I added that.
Okay, thanks. I just helps when I write the letter.
Thank you, Vicki.
Thank you very much.
All right, good discussion all. Thank you. Katie, you're still on deck.
Okay. Last bit is just kind of give you a little on the master plan. As far as what's been happening, we're just, I'll be honest, we're still in the gathering, collecting data phase. And, I appreciate everyone that participated and did some research and the homework, so to speak. I did get several people's responses, so I appreciate that. I couldn't bring like an analysis of that just because they were coming in at the last minute, and I just didn't have the time to really go through them. And that's what I'd like to do, is go through them in better mindset. I will say though that Commissioner Freeling had forwarded it out to the Board of Commissioners, so they're aware of what we're doing and engaged in the process. So that's also a very good sign. And we got some response back from some of the commissioners there too. So it was not just you guys doing some work. The Board of Commissioners was also participating in this exercise. And some thoughts and suggestions that from just kind of a few people's responses and reaching out to me, I kind of have a couple ideas or suggestions. And that one thought is just to individually contact each one of you, just kind of have a one-on-one discussion of, just so I know what your focus and your main things are and what you'd like to see and kind of what are your visions of the county and the master plan and the process per se, so that I have a good understanding and gauge of that, so I'm not omitting or discounting somebody's level of participation. And I've done that with another board, and I found it for me very helpful, and I hope that the members of that board also felt it worthwhile and a good time, a good investment of their time. So I'm happy to do that, and I think that might be a really good exercise for each of, for all of us as well. And then as I get, I would have a set of questions. I'd ask you each the same question. And I can do that in a survey format as well, if you prefer to kind of mull on it and think about it for time, at a time, and then respond accordingly. So I can do that, and then come back with kind of a summary of like, here's our thoughts, here's where we're going, just so that you can also see what, where other people are on, we're pretty much a broad range of interests and expertise, so to speak. So that's one thought I had, as well as I could also reach out to you via survey with the intent. I don't think we're at that point now where we're still doing some data collecting just to have factual information, and then also reaching out to our stakeholders and doing a survey that maybe we have available on our website. We can email it to the townships and all municipalities, the cities and villages and townships. And then obviously, as we've kind of, we have our trends and our topics, also reach out to those stakeholders that are also involved in some of the research as well. Individualized surveys for various areas. So that's another thought I had too. And then also just maybe meeting in small groups, like create a work group. And so that way we're able to have a meeting, or it could be a Zoom meeting, or even just a conference call, where it's not in violation of Open Meetings Act, a small enough group that we can then discuss, and it would be like a work group. So those are some thoughts and suggestions that I have. I don't know what your thoughts are, or where you're.
What are the thoughts of the commission on these possible ideas for gathering information? This is really one of the critical things we've own as a commission, and we need to give it due practice.
Well, I'm all for it. I think it was very difficult for me to put anything down on the computer as far as my thoughts for some of those different topics. And I just mentioned to Katie, if it would be possible to get together, in a small group, three or four people. I don't know what that does to the Open Meeting Act. I mean, as a subcommittee or whatever you want to call it, but just to try to get some additional ideas so that we can talk about it, converse about it, and do some brainstorming.
Yeah, but the question really becomes, and I've got a couple of comments in the chat room from a couple of you. Is it do we do the one-on-one as Katie suggests, or do we do the small group thing? And the question is, how viable is the small group thing in a video conference environment? Katie has suggested she is willing to take the time for the one-on-one thing. The burden's really on her as opposed to us. So that would be the concern that I would raise, but I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth.
I find it effective to have conversations with all of you. For instance, in transportation, under the first objective is complete US 31. We don't have control. I know what Mr. Upton has said. He's not the head of the EPA or the Environmental Protection Agency. I think that should not be there. And I appreciate all of us conversing on that particular topic. And I have some for almost every single, unfortunately, for almost every single one of these 6.
A couple of you have been kind enough to copy me on your notes back to Katie. You may have copied all of us, I don't know. And yes, a few of us do have comments on a number of these, and that's, Vicky, I agree. I'm really caught in this one because I agree the value of dialogue, but it's the size of the group can be an awkward factor. If it's 2 or 3 person groups, that may be viable. If it's bigger groups, I would be very, very concerned.
We do our school board meetings with quite a few people, with the business manager, all the principals, superintendent, audience, coaches, and we don't have any problems.
That's different than a discussion, though, on a work group kind of thing.
Okay. I just appreciate everyone's input. And I feel if I talk to Katie, I'm not going to see what Greg or Rod or Jim or Lois have to say about these, or Eric.
Yep, no, but very good point. Thoughts from others?
Could I comment? I like what Vicky says about the usefulness of group discussions. I think that could be done here, but I also think there's a role for either one-on-one discussions or smaller groups. I guess we have to be a little bit aware of the Open Meetings Act. I certainly don't know much about that, but we don't want to break any rules there. I've already asked to have a conversation with Katie, and Katie, I think we have that set up for tomorrow afternoon. I went through the agriculture part of the plan, and I also went through the introduction to the plan and found that I had so many thoughts and questions and comments and where did this data come from type thing, that to write them all up would have been an hour and a half worth of typing, which I wasn't prepared to do just at that moment. I think it would be really interesting for a series of one-on-one conversations amongst the group to get an idea of what people are thinking. I really wonder, I'd like to actually ask if we could send out to all the members a statement of the mission of the Berrien County Planning Commission. What does the county think we're doing? What are we charged to do? And what do we think we're doing? At least what have we said about it in writing? And I wonder if as we redo the master plan, it might be worth rethinking the role of a planning commission. Who is doing the big long-term planning for Berrien County? Primarily, I suspect in terms of looking out for black swan events, but also in terms of real economic planning. What's the role of the Cornerstone Alliance and the local Chamber of Commerce, separate from Cornerstone Alliance? JB, I'd love to have a kind of one-on-one conversation with you, normally over some kind of appropriate liquid beverage, but I am not leaving the house, period, end of discussion. I have a brand new grandson here at home, and I'm not jeopardizing that relationship. If you all want to spend 2 weeks in quarantine, then you can come visit me here at home. But anyway, I do have a lot of thoughts about whether we're really planning the right kind of planning. And this becomes then Katie has done a marvelous job of leading us from the urban planner point of view. And maybe I'm being unfair to the urban planning universe by at least raising the question of whether there's a big picture we ought to at least glance at and see if we're in the appropriate relationship to the big picture. I'll shut up now.
Very well
Miss-
put, Eric.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, can you hear me now?
Yes, Lois.
Yeah.
Thank you. I apologize. I missed the first 4 items on our agenda, and I'm not sure if this particular subject was brought up, but that are being concerned and aligned with the strategic goals of the County Board of Commissioners. I don't know as though I know what I'm talking about. Is there a document that's called the Board of Commissioners Strategic Goals? Where is there something that I would know what Terry is speaking of? I think it's right in the same vein as what the gentleman just spoke of before me.
Barry, could you comment on that? Is there such a document?
There is such a document. The Board of Commissioners actually just went through strategic goal setting in 2019. We normally do it as a 2-year process. And it is actually on the Berrien County's website under Board of Commissioners, under our page, and it tells you both our mission statement for the county, but also those strategic goals. What I will do is I'll send that to Katie to have, or Jennifer, to have them send that out to the whole planning commission.
Thank you,
Thank
Terry.
you very much. Thank you,
Thank
Terry.
you.
Sometimes the county website's a little challenging to navigate.
What? Come on.
Yes.
That's the new and improved county.
Come on.
Okay, it's the new county website. Forget the improved part. Let me offer a suggestion here, having listened to several of you and watched the faces of the rest of you as others were making comments. I'm hearing maybe 2 things. One is we'd like a little more background, as Terry just offered, in terms of the strategic goals and mission of the county. Is there a mission statement for the Planning Commission? And if so, we'd both like to see that and review that. So maybe there's some pre-work there. Then perhaps so that Katie can get an in-depth review, because like Eric, I could type for at least an hour and a half, probably longer than that, and I'm slow, to put all of my thoughts down on paper. Maybe some one-on-one, a series of one-on-one discussions between Katie and each commissioner, followed then by small group discussions, where it's maybe 4 of us. I think if we do 3 discussions of 4 people with Katie, that gets us around, keeps us safe with the Open Meeting Act. Puts a little added burden on Katie, but does that approach make sense of background information, one-on-ones, small group?
I like it.
And I wasn't saying that only one item was the way to go. Do you like these ideas? So if we start off with the individual one-on-ones, we'll preface it with the background information, and then I'll reach out to do one-on-ones with each of you, and then kind of come up with some analysis or summaries of the discussion, the outcomes, the findings. And then from there, maybe through what you provide me, your interest and your feedback, that kind of, there's a couple different approaches to making those small groups. So if, we could put similar concerns and issues as one group, but also do the opposite of taking somebody who has a completely different perspective on something, so that the dialogue is open and more, you're not just hearing the same, your own mind thinking and somebody else's thoughts. Like, it's good to have the push and pull on both sides. So we could have small groups in that way, or just handpick sometimes as to who's in the small groups for discussions. Or just even availability, who's available only 3 at a time.
I think we have to be careful that we don't overload your time, Katie.
Yeah, that's true.
And
In general, I like all the ideas, but, you know, let's be realistic about your time.
And we have not even gotten to my text edits, which is a whole nother 6-month process.
What?
Oh, the grammar and the text edits, my head almost exploded. So I had to let that go and just focus on.
Katie, I mean, Eric raises a fair point. I mean, is this approach that you and I just outlined, is that a fair burden for us to place on you?
I can do that, that's fine.
All right.
Then I think, Mr. Chairman, we should all make sure that we've done our work and that we have a limit on how much time we spend with Katie. Like 20 minutes, 30 minutes.
I'm going to suggest we let Katie set that so that it
Yeah,
could use of her time.
I'll set it.
More than 5 and less than 60 would be a time frame that I would propose. I'll leave that on Katie's shoulders because Eric's point is well stated, and as is Vicky's. So unless there's major objection to that, I'd like to see that as a plan going forward based on all of your thoughts and comments and facial expressions.
Do we have a statutory charter and requirement?
From the Planning Enabling Act, we are to review our master plan every 5 years.
But does it say what we have to do? Does it describe the planning commission's function? Well, let's start with that.
Well, yeah, there's, we have a bylaw. Yeah. Or,
Improve those.
yeah. So when they changed the Planning Enabling Acts and the Michigan Zoning Enabling Acts, one of them required that you had to have what was called a zoning commission, which we call our planning commission.
Yep.
And we had to go through, I don't know if it was an ordinance or just, it might have been an ordinance that had to get approved, or we had to have a resolution passed anyways with bylaws for our planning commission. So I'll pull those out and I will send them to you so you can just see how we established ourselves and statutorily what our requirements are.
Okay, well, that's since we are a creation of law, that should be a beginning point of the direction we should follow.
Katie,
Whatever our statutory charter is, that's where we should start. And then we can build on that as far as what is our purpose in life.
Bud has a good point. It'd be nice to look at that statute if we could.
Yeah, that's where we have to look. We are a creation of law, so what's the law say we're supposed to be doing?
We're all in lockdown, so I've been cleaning files, and I just threw out our bylaws from how long ago, Katie? Because we don't need paper copies of everything. I think
So would it probably be 2009?
Yeah, I think that was the last update.
Well, I don't know if it's bylaws, but whatever it says in state law that we are supposed to do, you know, that's what we are supposed to do. Or we built on that.
But it's state law plus any bylaws we've imposed on ourselves. So both of those are vital.
Yeah. And we can change those bylaws.
Ordinance number 22.
Well, let's review it first.
This is
Yeah.
Commissioner Freeling.
And-
We were created by a resolution in November of 1964 by the Board of Supervisors, which is now the Board of Commissioners, and also by ordinance number 22, which was approved on May 7th of 2009. I believe that ordinance also is available on the Berrien County website. I did send this whole commission the strategic, we call them our objective goals because they're only 2 years. I will look to see if there are additional strategic goals, but those truly are what we are going off of as a board for our strategic goals. But again, that ordinance is ordinance number 22. And that is available on our website.
If I may, if you go to the website and you go under Board of Commissioners, in the Board of Commissioners section of the website, on the left-hand side, it will say ordinances. Click on there and you'll find the very few ordinances we have, and here's number 22.
Okay, whoever the highest authority was, or however it got passed down to us, and whoever tells us what to do, we'll do it and how to do it.
All right. Well, I think we've got we've uncovered some really interesting stuff here. In fact, that there is an ordinance and that we do have bylaws. And I confess I wasn't sure that I knew either one of those things prior to today. So we now know where those are, or with Terry's help, we will get there.
I certainly forgot about them. But I
I
knew something came from the Mount Olympus.
So what I'm again, what we're looking at is background materials, which would be the county strategic goals, our mission, our bylaws, the Playing Enabling Act requirements, then one-on-one meetings with Katie, which she'll then summarize, and then small group meetings with Katie, which she'll structure in a way that best utilizes the diversity of the group and keeps us safe with the Open Meetings Act, and then we'll see where we are at that point. But that's a fair amount of stuff to do for all of us, certainly.
Right.
But I think that's going to get us what we need to get to. Anybody have other thoughts, please?
As we talk about these things, I think in future, just all of us to put aside, some people didn't know we had bylaws. Maybe when you become a member of the board, that would be part of your rather than just getting a vote by the commissioners, but you get a copy of the bylaws, you get a copy of all this stuff. Might be helpful.
An onboarding or orientation process.
Yeah, like an orientation.
I'm of a mind to appoint a couple of you as an orientation committee.
I nominate KB.
I said nothing.
Onboarding was your first meeting's the next Tuesday at 2:30. End discussion. So I think maybe I'm going to volunteer a couple of you. Please push back if you disagree. But Vicki and Eric have both expressed some good thoughts around this. Would you guys mind maybe just meeting by phone or video conference and coming up with a proposal for onboarding that you could bring back to us at a future meeting, at timing at your discretion?
Sure. Eric, you okay?
Talking with Vicki.
Yeah. We'll do a Zoom cocktail hour.
I know.
You guys are gonna be meeting at happy hour.
That sounds like trouble.
I'm gonna do it. That's my thing now, is putting
Mr.
euchre
Chair?
online.
This is Commissioner Freeling. I have another question for you regarding process. I was not on this committee or this commission the last time we did the master plan review. I had just been appointed as we finalized the details. Looking through this from 2015, I see a lot of reference to coordinating with other organizations and agencies. Did we have, workshops and things along that line where we're sitting down, talking to those experts in the areas of housing, agriculture, transportation, or was that our due diligence to do as members to this commission?
During the phase of updating the master plan, we did have meetings with those different work groups, so to speak.
Okay.
Where they were brought in and would I say we had a huge public engagement participation period? I would say no, not really. I mean, it's available, but it didn't, I would say that's where the past master plan lacked, was engaging more public participation, but we're also not making we're not changing land use decisions. We are merely providing a resource and a complete picture of what's going on. So that's where we have opportunities to get public input and involvement, and we need to as part of the Michigan Planning Enabling Act and as part of a master planning process. But typically and in practice, most of the public engagement really is most effective or engaged is when it's the townships and the cities and the villages that are doing their master plans, because it's residents that are truly impacted and affected by the land use decisions that are being presented in that master plan.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to inject right here. I've been reviewing the master plans and other documents. So one thing I really like some of the individual subjects, I kind of have concern we are to find facts and figures and information, but I notice an override of opinion. I don't believe we are an opinion group as such. Of course, the opinions are going to provide for the conclusions, but the opinions somewhat restated, and I think that's one fact-finding group, I think. That's.
Lois, are you proposing a solution to your concern?
That was a suggestion, Mr. Chairman. I thought I must have. I just think that that's something to keep in mind as we come up with some of our conclusions in our writings.
Okay, understood. You broke up a little bit, so I didn't hear 100% of what you said. I apologize for being off target. Okay, what else do we need to cover for on the master planning process? Katie, do you need any further input from us?
No, I'll just reach out to you.
Excellent. Again, this is a time-consuming task for all of us. I appreciate the work everybody's put in to date. And we've obviously got a lot more in front of us. So thank you in advance for your continued efforts here. But this is one of the most important things we do because as we keep telling all the townships and villages, this is what guides you. And if it's not there, why are you doing it? So we appreciate all the time and efforts on part of the commission and certainly on part of you, Katie. Is there anything else for the good of the order today?
We have one item that might be of interest to the Planning Commission from the Southwest Michigan Planning Commission. And I'm going to ask Terry to help me with this, but there was an incident where John Engelhoff found out that the Railroad Commission or the Michigan DNR or whatever it's called anyway was trying to do away with the Marquette Line rail that runs through St. Joe for passenger service. And so he asked specific people to, different managers of county administration to write letters to the Michigan State Road Commission or whoever regulates the railroad to take a look at this to see exactly what was going on. But from my understanding, they came very close, and Barry, you can help me with this. It came very close to, shutting that particular rail down until these letters were written and got to the correct people, where now that apparently that's gone away. But it just shows you some of the prestige that, Mr. Engelhoff has within the state. So Terry, you could please comment on that if you would.
Certainly, yes. When we had our last planning commission for Southwest Michigan Planning Commission's meeting, John Engelhoff, the executive director, gave us an update, and he mentioned about the Pierre Marquette railway that is governed by Amtrak. Amtrak, due to COVID, had actually ceased operation for a period of time on that particular line. It was not due to reopen until 2021 was the earliest that Amtrak had said they were going to hold off on opening.
Get it.
It is now open and operating. And a lot of that, I think, is just because there were a lot of people inquiring about it and stating, John being one of them, our planning commission and others, stating how critical that line is for transportation throughout this region. One of the other points that John had also made was that MDOT was appropriated funding, I think $250,000 to do a study about reconfiguring the two railways that converge in the New Buffalo, three railways that actually converge in the New Buffalo area, and what it would take in order to make the Pierre Marquette a high-speed railway line. And so we're kind of looking into that a little bit more, but certainly our voices have power, and those who could listen, listened and took it into consideration. And so the Pierre Marquette is operating today.
Thanks, Terry.
Great, fantastic.
Somebody else trying to make a comment. I can't see who.
I think I'll make a comment, but I think that we've made our point about the importance of broadband in our survey.
Waiting for that, Terry.
I couldn't miss the opportunity, sorry.
Could I remind Terry and everybody that there are a lot of people who can't afford broadband, even though they live in a geographic locale that would give them access to broadband. It's not just a matter of being out in the country that's a problem. Also, if you've looked at your bill, I don't know, I look at my bill, I think it's an outrageous amount of money we're paying. And if you look at the annual reports of companies like Comcast or AT&T, well, I won't go on. I also say that there's been some discussion at both the Nats meetings and the Twin Cats meetings, which I've been attending for a couple of years now. Thank you, Vicky. About this Amtrak Pierre Marquette line. And I think it is still probably under some long-term threat. And whether really we've used passenger rail appropriately is another great big question.
Yes.
That I'm not sure the Planning Commission is being asked to comment on, but maybe we are obstreperous enough just to make a comment. I don't know. You know, there's an awful lot of fossil fuel being burned on I-94 and the Indiana Toll Road going from Berrien County, not to mention the rest of Michigan, to Chicago and back. And that might not be the best solution in the long run.
Point.
That's all I've.
Okay. Anything else to come before the commission this afternoon? Lots of good discussion. I certainly appreciate everybody's input and patience. I'm glad to see that we're all still energized despite the opportunities surrounding broadband service and not being in the same room together. So with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved,
Second.
Mr. Chairman.
All right, Jennifer?
Lois Foster,
Yes.
Freeling,
Yes.
Hoyt,
Yes.
Krieger,
Yes.
Lammert,
Yes.
Lester.
Yes.
Meister is absent. Haney,
Yes.
Smith is absent. Wagner
Aye.
is absent. You have 8 days, 3 absent.
All right. Adjourned. Thank you all for your participation today and look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks, JB. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you, JB.
Thank you very much.
Good meeting, sir. Excellent.
Good meeting.
Good meeting.